She began acting at the age of 4, and in her youth, she was featured in some of Hollywood's top films, including Miracle on 34th Street, The Searchers with John Wayne, and Rebel Without a Cause with James Dean. As a teenager, she was nominated for an Academy Award, and she went on to have a stunning film career. Of course, I'm talking about Natalie Wood, whose talented life was cut short when she died in a boating accident. On November 29th, 1981, Natalie Wood died under very mysterious circumstances at the age of 43. Hi, I'm Tamworth Grice. Welcome to my channel, the Tamworth Grice Files. Here you will hear about cases that are spooky, macabre, fascinating, supernatural, and just plain weird. And in each instance, I have a personal connection to the story, so be sure to stick around to the end to hear about that. Natalie Wood was a beautiful child, and when she was 4, as a bystander, she was noticed by members of a crew during a film shoot. She eventually became one of the top child stars in Hollywood. Unlike many child stars, her appeal didn't dwindle with age, and as a teen, she continued her acting career, playing opposite some of the top actors of her time, including Frank Sinatra, James Garner, and twice with Robert Redford. Her career took a downturn at one point, but was rescued by her performance opposite Warren Beatty in the coming-of-age film Splendour in the Grass, for which she was nominated for a second Academy Award. When she was 19, she married fellow actor Robert Wagner, later the star of the highly successful television series Heart to Heart. They divorced 5 years later, but after her second marriage to another man, she remarried Wagner in her mid-30s. The couple bought a 58-foot motor yacht that she named Splendour after the film that had rescued her career. But the fact that she had even bought a yacht is peculiar because she was terrified of water and could not swim. In November 1981, she took a short break from filming Brainstorm, a sci-fi film with Christopher Walken. She was on a weekend trip to Santa Catalina Island off the California coast with Walken, with her husband, and with the ship's captain and family friend Dennis Davern. All weekend, the four drank heavily. On Friday night, Wagner and Wood had a fight that was so vicious that Captain Davern asked Walken to get involved, but Walken refused. As a result, Davern took Wood ashore using the ship's inflatable dinghy, and the two spent the night in a hotel. The next day, the four had drinks and ate dinner at an oceanside restaurant, and the waitress who served them said they consumed 2 bottles of wine, 2 bottles of champagne, and multiple cocktails. The waitress said when they left, Natalie Wood was stumbling as she walked. The four returned to the yacht at about 10 p.m. Wagner said Wood went to her room alone, and later, when he went to check on her, she was gone. Soon after dawn, Wood's body, clad in a nightgown, socks, and a red down jacket, was found floating about a mile away from the yacht. The dinghy, which she may have tried to use to leave the yacht, was found washed up on the rocks nearby. Strangely, the dinghy's ignition was off, the gear shift was in neutral, and the oars were locked, suggesting she may have never started the vessel, or if she climbed into it, which many say was unlikely, she may have had trouble starting it. Because Wood had been drinking, it has been theorized that she may have tried to return to shore on her own and slipped while trying to board the dinghy. But her sister, Lana Wood, doubts this because not only could Natalie not swim, she had been terrified of water for her entire life and would never have tried to leave the yacht on her own. On the other hand, in her drunken state, she may have made a bad judgment call and thought she could pilot the dinghy herself, having seen it used the previous day. The coroner reported that she'd had at least 7 glasses of wine, a motion sickness pill, and a painkiller in her system, as well as a blood alcohol level of 0.14, which is very high. Her death was ruled as accidental drowning. However, the coroner also found 39 fresh bruises on her body, including a cut on her left cheek, leading some to believe she met with violence before drowning. And it has never been determined just how she entered the water. That was in 1981. In 2011, the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department reopened the case because of conflicting witness statements and pressure from Wood's family and others. The coroner's office changed her cause of death to, quote, drowning and other undetermined factors, unquote, in 2012. The coroner's office also states that how Wood got into the water is, quote, not clearly established, unquote. The ship's captain, Dennis Davern, admitted he'd lied about the events of that weekend. Davern may have lied both as a friend of Wagner and because he wanted to hold on to his job and income. In 2018, Captain Davern claimed that Robert Wagner had held him, quote, hostage, unquote, and the captain claimed Wagner had pushed Natalie off the boat. Davern previously had stated that Walken and Wagner had argued that weekend, and Wood, bored with their discussion, had headed off to bed alone. In his memoir, Wagner admitted that he'd argued with Wood before she disappeared from the boat. Davern said Walken and Wood were flirting with each other throughout dinner. Wagner became enraged, and following Wood's disappearance, Wagner prevented Davern from illuminating the yacht's searchlights to look for her. Natalie's sister, Lana Wood, does not think Natalie's husband, Robert Wagner, would have harmed Natalie, but she also believes there's more to the story than Natalie trying to get into the dinghy alone because she knew about Natalie's extreme fear of water. On February 1st, 2018, the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department named Wagner as a person of interest in the investigation, saying that he was the last person to see her alive. Note, person of interest does not necessarily mean he is a suspect. The department also says that based on the bruising, Wood possibly was physically assaulted before she dies. Robert Wagner continues to deny any involvement in Wood's death. The case is open and still unsolved. Now here's my connection to the story. In 7th grade, my friend Nicole was very excited about going on a vacation to a lakeside cottage at Lake Erie owned by friends who lived in the cottage next door. Her parents were heavy drinkers. Her father, like mine, was from an Ohio river town where, because of the constant threat of extreme flooding when the river overflowed its banks, children were taught to swim in early childhood. Thus, her father was an excellent swimmer. However, the father drowned when he and my friend's mother took a nighttime canoe ride out on the lake. Her mother later said she tried to rescue him, but because he was pulling her down with him, she swam to shore to get help, which came too late. No one ever gave an explanation for how this man, who was known to be an excellent swimmer, had drowned. But I've always thought it was because he'd been drinking heavily. I'd seen him drunk at her house, and I knew he was a heavy drinker. So, if even a strong swimmer like Nicole's father can drown when drunk, it's no wonder poor Natalie Wood, who couldn't swim at all, died in the water with a blood alcohol level of 0.14 and 8 glasses of wine in her system. So, what do you think happened? Did Natalie Wood simply fall into the water while she tried to take the dinghy to shore? Why would Natalie attempt to pilot the dinghy alone, especially given her fear of water? Was this just bad judgment due to heavy drinking? Was there foul play? Did Robert Wagner physically assault Natalie Wood, who then climbed into the dinghy to escape, fell overboard, and drowned? Or did he push her overboard? Leave your answers in the comments. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, I hope you will subscribe because I really need subscribers. And I hope you'll return to view the next video in the Tamworth Grice Files. This is Tamworth Grice signing off. Until next time, stay wonderful, stay weird, and have beautiful dreams.